Hi there, this is Charlene Dan again, and I'm doing this video on what do you do in the face of failure? Do you have any epic business failures we can learn from? Well, what I do in the face of failure is I worry about it for a couple of days, and I try to rationalize why I failed. And then I talk to friends and family so that they can tell me that everything I did was perfectly okay, or you tried, or they try to give me some nice thing to make me feel better. Um, I don't fail a whole lot anyway, but there is one huge failure I look at. In 1988, I had the opportunity to buy a franchise, and it was called the Lollipop Tree. And what it was a candy florist. So what we would do is make lollipops in all different arrangements and forms, and we would sell them, put them in a vase, make it a nice arrangement, and sell them. And so I bought into it because at that time, I wanted to take the first opportunity. I didn't want to go around in Connecticut and say, oh, gee, somebody else started this. Why didn't I do it then? So anyway, I started this franchise, and it was a very small one, but nonetheless, the franchise was the Lollipop Tree. So I bought into it, went down to New Bern, North Carolina, learned how to make the lollipops, learned how to make baskets, and, for all occasions. And I was really psyched up about it. As I look back now, I think I treated it more as a hobby as opposed to a business. But anyway, along the road, I spent thousands of dollars, bought all the equipment. I mean, at that time, I think it was about $15,000. I'm not quite sure what it was. But I got all the equipment, and then I rented a storefront. So I did have a brick and mortar business, and I learned all about rentals and water and properties, and the three ways to pay, what's included in the rent. And I just got a 3-year place. So I set up this business, and I was very creative individual. And what I did do is I made up this book. You can see it right here. It's called The Lollipop Tree. And you can see right there, little reflection there, but see those lollipops there? You see the word love, Love, and then you see some pink hearts. Well, what I did do is I made all that hard candy with molds, and I bought a store. Rented a storefront, as I said. So as I look back, I wish that I had had a marketing person, because this was a very labor-intensive business. When you think of, you had to make the lollipops, so you had to boil water and Karo syrup and sugar, get it to a certain temperature, pour it into the molds. The molds were on marble slabs. Then you put a stick in the mold. Then you waited for the mold to cool. And then if you wanted to put some decorations on the candy, you had to do it right away so that the candies would stick into the hot liquid. Then you had to clean up the mess. Then you had to bag it, and then you had to seal it. And it was all these things that I did do. I did get them down pat. People like this, for instance, is the Wizard of Oz lollipop that I made for someone's birthday. And, there was even pencils that you could draw on it. Next, over here, I have a baby boy, and then there was a birthday party for this kid named Brian. So I made soccer balls and colored on the soccer balls. So just to give you an idea of what I did. And the reason it was called the Lollipop Tree was because there was wooden dowels. I'm going to try to show you a picture. Wooden dowels, and you could buy the wooden dowel with lollipops. Oh, here's one right here. Really great. If you can see it a little, and then you would always have that wooden dowel tree. And then all you would have to do is buy the lollipop after. Like it could be green and white shamrocks, or it could be hearts, or it could be animals, or what have you. So anyway, that's the adventure of this, the Lollipop Tree Candy Florist. But you know what? I didn't make a penny. I didn't make a penny, and at that time, my husband was doing very well, and I was able to draw from our bank account to pay the bills. And in the beginning, I was very excited about it, but then, I had guilty feelings because I was leaving my children at home for 2 hours when they got home from school, even though they were like 10 and 13. But and then I was lonesome in the store because the store was not in a good area in the sense of a high walking area. It wasn't in a bad part of town, but it was in a lower income, also a lower income section of town. So if I were to able to get that in a higher visibility or a higher town, for instance, I probably would have made quite a bit of money. But I was doing it myself. I was running all the billing. I was running the taxes, everything else that I had to do with it. And finally, after 2 years, I went on vacation and I closed the store because it wasn't worthwhile to hire someone for that time. And when I came back, I just decided not to reopen it. So I paid the 7 months rent that I had to pay, and I was done. And I had all this stuff in my garage for several years because it was still kind of an emotional thing. I felt like I had failed. I felt like I really didn't make any money on it. And it probably could have been a big money maker. But as I look back now, I would have gotten it in a higher visibility area. I would have gotten a marketing manager. I would have gotten more help. But then again, I didn't have a lot of income either to do all this stuff. And the franchisee, the franchisor, the owner of these franchises, even though she said she wanted to be helpful, she really wasn't very helpful. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I look at this as a failure on my part. That even when I do a resume, I don't even put down that I was a store owner, that I was a manager, that I was a candy maker, that I was a beautiful, creative person and made wonderful, wonderful arrangements that brought joy to many people. And I guess because I don't know, I guess it's a period sometimes that I just want to forget about. I'm glad I did it, but now as I get older and I look back in retrospect, I'm a very creative person, and even though I didn't make money at it, I'm very glad that I tried it. I'm very glad that we were able to afford it, that Dick was very supportive, and my children even came and helped me, and I met some nice people. The fact is, I wasn't selling, and I was getting lonely in the store by myself, so many reasons why I just closed it and closed that chapter on my life. So sometimes that's just a hump that I have to get over. And from that point, I went on to get my nursing degree. So I just went on to another venue for my life. And at 48, I got my nursing degree and moved from a surgical technician in the operating room to a registered nurse. And that was very, very meaningful for me. And I passed my RN. And I retired from that situation. So, a long story short, I think when you fail, you really have to look at everything. I may have failed the store, or think I have failed myself, but I really did wonderful things and had a wonderful creative time. I got awards from the owner, the franchise owner, who gave out all these franchises, and went to New Bern, North Carolina several times. And as I look back, I can see why it didn't happen, and I just have to stop thinking of it as a failure. So since that time, I can't say that I've really failed at anything. I know my own business here, my own marketing business, it has its ups and downs, but I have a firm faith in God that I am being guided, and I will get over the failures, and with this particular marketing venue, I will do well. And as I get older, I just know you have to think ahead, and you have to be thankful for things that you have. And not that I'm an old lady, but I'm thankful for my health and my husband and our small condo here and the friends that I meet at our masterminds. So I hope that tells you a little bit about how I handle the failure in my life. Until then, see you another time.